All right, so in this week's episode of Cents Per Mile, we covered a trucking company that developed a fitness program that got picked up by a local media source. And when you watch the video, it becomes extremely clear that everyone in the video is an office employee and not a truck driver. The one person that you kind of question might be a truck driver eventually introduces themselves as an office employee. So it seemed a little interesting. CDLLife did some colorful coverage on it, which we loved. That's why we put it on the show. But we figured today we would invite good friend of the show, Michael Lombard, former driver, Lombard Trucking, who now is a personal trainer and a fitness expert, to kind of break all of this down and his thoughts about that and the ways that the industry is currently not doing very much about drivers' health other than saying that they're worried about it.
Welcome back, Lombard, and welcome to your first appearance on Out of Hours.
Glad to be here on Out of Hours. By the way, great title for a segment. Number one, love that, and I appreciate being called an expert. By the way, I like to stray away from that. I think I'm always learning. So there's probably things I know better than most, but I shy away from terms like guru, expert, and stuff like that. I try to keep myself humble. But glad to be here, fellas. And what a story indeed.
The story, like, what's your take on all of this?
The story is reminiscent to, last year at Turning Point in Kansas City, where we talked about Truck Driver Appreciation Week. And, you gentlemen had a phenomenal video that kind of sums up what truck driver appreciation week looks like throughout the entire industry, which is basically a glorified employee appreciation week of the office work, of the office staff, of the dispatchers. And again, I was recently at the Broker Carrier Summit up in Kansas City, and I presented to over 350 people of brokers and carriers, and the sentiment of this story is right on the path. Like, it's exactly what you want to see from transportation companies, especially now working, full time in the fitness industry. For the most part, across the American workforce, employers, people's jobs, companies are paying for, it's part of their benefits to get either gym memberships paid for or reimbursement, or with health savings accounts, HSAs, things they can use towards health and wellness. Finally, we could see the transportation industry starting to get into this, and I'm sure freight tech has caught up with, offering employees these benefits. But once again, lagging behind, we have motor carriers who are, wanting to do the right thing. They're swinging, they're getting up to bat, but then at the end of the day, when the ball gets pitched, they're trying to provide this service, and then even the local news agency explicitly shows that the drivers aren't using it. And it's almost like when I watch the news video, it almost feels like satire, because the news anchor, the reporter, who was talking about the stats regarding driver health, is like, they're talking about the stats of driver health, but not once in the video was a driver featured. which I think it's just like, it's like, how did you let this get to print before you did some checks and balances on that story?
My initial take on this is, all right, I think that there is a place when they're at a home terminal to have workout facility and trainers available. I think that's a smart move on the carrier's end. But be honest, how often are drivers at the terminal? Unless something's broken and they're in the right area, that's not the case. So I think, in my mind, if we were going to execute this correctly, I think it would be, giving them availability to, gym memberships that can be used across the nation, or, putting together a workout program much like you and Mark have done in the past, where they could do it at the truck and then making that readily available to them. So I think that there's many ways that this could have gone down where it was executed properly and the intent was there. I think this is one of those things where you step on a landmine, blow off your leg, and you learn not to step there again, hopefully.
I do want to apologize on behalf of that local news network to JB Hunt for using one of their trucks as editorial B-roll. That is definitely not the company it was.
Yeah, that is true out there. I saw the JB Hunt video. I was like, I thought this was a local carrier in Maine. But no, Charles, you're absolutely right. You have to look at, when it comes to solving a problem, or, we go military terms, we talk mission accomplishment, it's all about tactics. And when it comes to what I'm referring to as the driver health, epidemic, because that's what it is at this point. It's become an epidemic when the stats are what they are. when it comes to it, we need tactics, and you have to employ. There's no one size fits all. There's no one statement or one solution to this problem. There's multiple tactics you need to use that need to be readily available for drivers, because, and I said this the other day, I went on another gentleman's show, the freight coach, and we had talked about essentially, I'm kind of essentially saying like different steps you need, or I was saying, sorry, I'm tripping over my words. I was saying about how right in the job description for the job of a truck driver, the fact that one of the bullet points on there isn't what one of the news anchors said, which is the job removes 16 years off your life. Like if that was the number one bullet of, duties and responsibilities, or in the job description was job may and will remove 16 years off of your life. That right there needs to be a statement that needs to be well communicated to people. So the education, and that's how I led off at the Broker Carrier Summit, was I asked people what they believed was the number one reason for obesity in America, and there's no right answer. This is, purely something that I've just kind of learned, is it's education. Education is why people don't make conscious health decisions. There's a reason why none of us woke up this morning and smoked crack, because we have been educated on the risk factors of crack and how it probably won't serve to our advantage. And when it comes to decisions around our health, it's all about education, because these slow killers of death, which are chronic diseases, are slow, and they work at a pace that goes well into retirement age, so they're not looked at more seriously early enough. But again, going back to what I was saying about tactics, like you said, gym memberships while they're on the road, or remote programs, like those right there are it's a two-pronged attack to get it. Because on the one end, if your drivers are OTR, you have very good experiences with a $24 per month gym membership at Planet Fitness, which most Planet Fitnesses allow drivers to park, have room for parking, have showers, and are open 24 hours. So right there, you have real estate and infrastructure readily available for drivers to capitalize on. And then at the same time, again, not every place you go driving, especially maybe in the Northeast, as companies in Maine, they're not going to have that area. But no matter what, the truck has to park somewhere at the end of the night. So remote learning through either pre-recorded coaches or workouts and nutritional information, that's that second prong right there. So it takes multiple bullet points to solve this issue. I can appreciate the trucking company's effort, and it's really great. But it just, once again, kind of hitting below the mark, and then almost digs the dagger deeper when, you make it to the local news and you're showing this benevolence and like we're making a change. But then again, the driver completely left out of the conversation.
I have another idea. I want your honest thoughts on this. What about like when you buy a pack of cigarettes, you got the Surgeon General's warning, and on trucking we put one of those like, we'll remove 16 years off your life. Apply now.
Yeah, it could be. If you go to the Zyn website, I think the nicotine warning is right on the welcome page, right there. That Surgeon General's warning. If you think about it, yeah. Shout out.
Warning: this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
I think if you go to any website, like you go to Anheuser-Busch's website, you go to any cigarette company website, there's always that Surgeon General's warning. Are we at the point to where motor carriers need to put that on their websites welcome page?
Maybe that's how we do this. Maybe if you don't have a program in place that services the driver, you have to have that Surgeon General warning on your job ads.
Yeah, it is a hazard. It's a safety hazard. We see the stats. I mean, they talk about it in the news article video. They talk about how oftentimes issues that face the driver are medical issues for the reason why they can't show up to work. So clearly there is a hazard and possibly a warning the Surgeon General of the United States might need to address.
They're going to blame us if this winds up going in and becoming implemented. They're going to come back to this show and just blame us completely.
To be fair, Charles, we don't have to worry about that because that would have to turn into legislation. And for legislation to work, it would have to pass.
Yeah. In the current administration, nothing passes.
Not just the administration, the current Congress, the current Senate, all of it.
We're not going political, though. Not on our hours. We save that spicy stuff for cents per mile.
FMCSA, though, they'd have to launch a study, and then they'd have to do a study on the study, and then they'd have to send that study to experts to then conduct another study.
But those experts would be the ones that are in their pocket, which then would release data that only supplies, money in their pocket.
I don't know that that's true. They would just be experts that don't have a lot of time, so they would just ride in a day cab with a day cab driver, a local driver for a day.
Yeah, so Lombard, I have... a really big interest in all that you're doing, because I think it's one of those things that people don't give enough credit to, and it can move the needle for retention. From a recruiting standpoint, we see a lot of drivers get DQ'd for different reasons, either medical, by their doctor, due to their license, or just due to their records.
Sleep apnea.
If we could cut even one of those out of the mix by doing it the right way, it would have a dramatic impact on the industry in a positive way, which is something that the industry is not really known for. So I think like the easiest one, if I had to just pick one of them out and say the easiest one, I agree with you. Education is the key here. And I think if we just took the time to put education out there the same way we do on all the things that are bad for you, let's put education out there about how this can be good for you and the benefits of doing so and the longevity of doing so. I think the industry would dramatically increase its chances of retaining these individuals.
No, absolutely. I talked about this on one of my recent episodes. I was talking about it with the freight coach, Chris Jolly is his name. I give him a quick shout out and plug. I think it's the foundation that could solve a lot of problems. Basically, in science terms, we know that inflammation can lead to other sicknesses and disease, cancer, stuff like that. Like inflammation is bad, so to speak. And when you reduce inflammation, things operate. Your body recovers better. And I think that the 500-pound elephant in the room of the driver health epidemic being the problem as it is, like you said, if we can pick that out, you're talking about a massive reduction in inflation that would solve a lot of the other issues in the industry, retention being a big part of them, and just the overall culture of motor carriers, turnover rates. Like when you can reduce that inflammation of people actually being sick and unhealthy, it's going to make all the other body parts and all the other parts of the industry operate a little bit more smoothly.
So it sounds like fantastic advice to, conclude on. People can take this information and implement it at their organization at a level that they have control and feel comfortable with. But if someone wanted to reach out to you to get some advice, how can they do so, Lombard?
People can always find me, and whether you're a driver yourself or you're somebody who you're an owner of a motor carrier and you own several trucks, no matter how big your company is, you can find me anywhere at Lombard Trucking. I'm also on LinkedIn. And like I said, I just spoke to over 350 brokers and carriers on this issue, how I lived it, how I survived while I was over the road, and how I managed to train and run in 5 marathons while I do it. So do you have to run marathons? No. But can you be a healthy individual and do more exercise above net zero as a driver? Absolutely. And I'm here to be that resource and to be that coach for people in the industry. So give me a shout out anywhere: Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Lombard Trucking, on LinkedIn, Michael Lombard. Find me anywhere. Like I said, it's my mission, and it's a staple point to not quit on this issue in the industry, and hopefully get it better, and to make change the culture brick by brick surrounding this.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time to share your insights. Folks, you heard it here on Out of Hours. And until next time, I'm your host, Charles Gracie.
And I'm your co-host, Paul Gibson. See you next time.